The Dictators go girl crazy right now on States and Kingdoms. Welcome back to States and Kingdoms. Today we're talking about the Dictators album Go Girl Crazy from 1975.
The Dictators Go Girl Crazy, 1975. This album is pretty unique. The Dictators have their own little spot.
In your heart?
Whatever. In music and in New York music too.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of funny, we were talking about this before, but if you grow up in New York and this applies to talking about like the Ramones and, you know, those bands in relation to the Dictators. Like if you're from Queens, the Bronx is like another country.
Yeah, you're not going to go there.
You don't go to the Bronx, and it's far away.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you're actually there, when you're you know, where, just full disclosure, our mom grew up in the Bronx, and when you're around that area, you feel like you're in upstate New York.
Yeah, it's very different.
It's so far away, and so the Dictators, I mean, you know, being from the Bronx is actually important.
Yeah, significant.
It's just interesting because, you know, there weren't that many
Bronx
bands. We got Dion and the Belmonts, the Dictators, you know.
That's it.
I mean, you know, there's more, but it's not a ton. They're so far away.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, people,
It's
you
true.
think the boroughs are like close together, but if you live in Queens, like Brooklyn is not that close.
Yeah.
Even
well, especially if you're a New Yorker that doesn't have a car.
Right, it's not that
you're
close.
not going to...
And the Bronx,
you're not
like,
going
forget
there.
it. You have to have like a tent.
You're not going there.
You gotta plan out. You gotta camp.
Yeah, it's an overnight trip.
It just takes way too long. So it's not worth it. And also, don't go there. The Dictators, to me, when I first heard them, I just thought, this is just brilliantly funny rock and roll. Mm-hmm. I fell in love with it. It was I just thought it was so witty. It's got a real, I mean, it's like,
it's a
Bronx
reverent,
smart-ass kind of thing to it that's really very, very endearing.
Yeah, it's irreverent, it's energetic, it's got a carefree kind of quality where they're just having
They just don't take
fun.
anything seriously.
They're doing whatever they want to do, they'll do.
But the fact is that the band was solid.
Yeah,
it sounds solid.
Good.
You know, I love the guitar on this. I love all the guitar sounds. I mean, you know, the rhythm guitar, the lead guitar from Ross the Boss. You know, you know, it's got that real Marshall sound. Really, I mean, it would be funny if it's not a Marshall, but it certainly sounds like one. It certainly sounds like a Marshall Plexi, you know, cranked up, and
it's a Vox.
So it's a Fender Champ. I love the whole sound of it. And of course it doesn't stop with this album, but I just thought, you know, the dynamic between Handsome Dick Manitoba and Andy Chernoff singing, which actually, of course, sort of goes away, you know, on the next album, but that works too. But I just thought the whole thing, I mean, you know, was brilliant.
Yeah, it's like it's a shtick without being a shtick. It's like it's kind of just who they are.
It could be a shtick, but it definitely is. Yeah, it's just them.
It feels honest.
It was just who they were.
It feels genuine.
Who they still are. Yeah.
Yeah, still.
But the way they sort of married 70s rock and roll, like what the kind of thing that was not, you know, was happening in the early 70s with bands that weren't that were more guitar forward, more focused on melody. Mm-hmm. You know, not like jammy at all, and not terribly blues based. Although most of them still, you know, still kind of were, but I mean, the Dictators brought a lot of that early 60s stuff. That, you know, they did. And, you know, and Andy Chernoff, I mean, a lead singer that sounds like, I don't know, he sounds like Freddie Cannon and a demented Neil Sedaka together. You know, I mean, it's what he sounds like to me. And, you know, they just have a totally unique spin on everything.
Well, the way that they both kind of went back to that early 60s thing a little bit, that's the connection. You know, it feels like a little bit of a going back to basics, like going, pulling from those earlier influences, sort of bypassing a lot of the mid to late 60s.
That was something that a lot of the New York bands, I mean, you either had, bands like Blondie or obviously the New York Dolls and certainly the Heartbreakers and
even like Cheap Trick.
Even Television.
Yeah.
Television with, the Ventures, and those sorts of
totally
things.
They're totally in that. Mm-hmm.
I mean, and in New York, and then you have the Stray Cats that skipped the 60s totally.
Yeah.
I mean, like in New York, there was that thing. I mean, there was a real carrying forward of 50s, early 60s rock and roll. And the Dictators definitely had that, and it might be the first time you really hear that. Mm-hmm. Because then you do hear it with the Ramones, and you hear it with Blondie, and you hear, the Stray Cats, obviously. Yeah. The use of Richard Manitoba.
Handsome Richard.
Is really, I mean, I always think is great, having him, giving him a sort of soliloquy before a couple of songs. So the next big thing, the first thing about the next big thing though, musically is it.
Well, the first thing you notice with the next big thing is how much it sounds like the Kinks.
Yeah, there is definitely a strong kinksiness.
And it's not even just
comes up throughout the album.
Just the guitar, even in the way he's singing, the vocal even reminds me of Ray Davies. It's just a real Kinksy thing. Just the way the song is structured.
So then Ray Davies, Freddie Cannon, and a demented Neil Sedaka.
Yes, there you go. It's real. It's there.
Well, I used to think, the Dictators. You could hear the Kinks. You could hear the Who. You can hear, the Stooges. You can hear like some of the a little bit maybe edgier, more recent things, MC5, and then you can also hear Neil Sedaka. I mean, it is just kind of fascinating, and they all go together.
Well, sure. Works.
But yeah, it's true though. There is a kinksiness. I hadn't thought of it exactly. I mean, you kind of take it for granted, I suppose.
Especially the first song. You could really you could see it on one of the Kinks' like 70s albums.
Well, absolutely. On their later 70s stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you just take it.
But yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, it's
which is interesting to think about.
Well, that's a different. I know that's actually a totally different conversation since this was before those.
Right. So we can talk about that when we talk more about the Kinks albums.
On You Got Me, Babe.
Yeah.
I'll have to say that along with
the Beavis and Butthead version.
The Beavis and Butthead version is probably the best version. What is that called? It's a soundtrack.
It's the soundtrack.
Is it the Beavis and Butthead Experience or something?
Yeah.
What was it called?
Yeah, it was like the soundtrack to the show.
Yeah.
Yeah, they released
a CD.
I listened
to it a lot.
It was influential.
But anyway, that's probably the best version. This would be the second.
Yeah, this is pretty funny.
Well, it's subtly funny. It's a good version, but the fact that they're singing
it to each other,
is gives you a little.
I mean,
chuckle.
The song is what it is.
I just wonder if Sonny Bono heard it, because I mean.
Well, he got that cha-ching.
Yeah, right. But this is very funny.
It is funny. It fits.
It's a good version of the song. I just don't love the song.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Back to Africa and Master Race Rock, and they're not really very similar, but obviously this still gets people's panties in a twist every now and then. I'm not sure why, because it's
controversial. No, and they're not.
They're not. It's not. It's just people silly and funny.
They make assumptions.
Back to Africa is a very clever song. I mean, it's not that different. It's like they're like was it Stranded in the Jungle? Isn't it, the older song that the Dolls did on their second album? And it's just silly and fun, but it's got a great beat to it and everything.
Mm-hmm. Well, all these songs have such a great energy, like they're simple, but there's like a meatiness to them. There's like substantial, like something.
And I guess Master Race Rock would have to be the closest to like what you consider like a punk thing for me, because of the attitude, which is again like the same attitude that you sometimes see like between like Curly and Larry Fine. I don't know. It's just no. I mean, like it's such a funny, completely irreverent thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the lines on this always make me smile.
But that's the thing.
Hope you don't pick your nose and all the all that is just very funny.
It's silly.
But musically, it's an extremely driving song.
Yeah.
I love the guitar on the whole album, and I
feel like people have trouble.
Awesome.
Just in general, people, when like something is humorous, you don't know where to like categorize it. I feel like that's an issue.
It does happen. I mean, for Frank Zappa or Primus or Ween, it's like, is this a joke?
Right.
Is this a joke? Should I take this seriously?
I don't get it.
So for the Dictators, yeah, and I mean for this album, because the next two albums are not as funny, not as irreverent.
So I think side 2 is like really strong.
Yeah. So you're Teen Generate.
Teen Generate, is a really good song.
Well, again, I mean the first line, is who's that boy with the sandwich in his hand?
Yeah. No true words have been spoken.
No, I mean I don't. There's just there are very few songs that start with such an incredible line.
It's a really good line.
And, it's a really clever song. Very funny.
And then California Sun, which is a really fun version.
That is one instance where comparing it to the Ramones is impossible not to do.
There's some crossover because they both did it.
But the Ramones do it straight. I mean, like, the Dictators have to add different dances.
They flourish it.
And I mean, I love this version. It's always funny.
It is funny.
It's priceless.
Priceless.
Classic.
Two Tub Man is probably the song, when you first started listening, well, not first, I don't even know
It's the one you would have heard most,
but yeah, when you were listening to this, and I was kind of listening through you, this is the song that I remembered first. That, like, stuck with me first.
Because you'd wonder,
ages ago.
What the hell is a Two Tub Man?
What the hell are you listening to? What is this? No, it's a really catchy. It's a great song. It's got a real hook, and it's and lyrics are fun.
Again, the guitar is absolutely awesome, and yeah, his just gruff, palooka-ish singing works like perfectly.
It is palooka-ish.
It's funny.
Yeah.
I mean, I always so many lines. I mean, you just want to sing along. You want to have Coca-Cola for breakfast and, sing along.
Loud.
I mean, it's just funny and awesome. It's not as sarcastic as Frank Zappa or weird as Ween or, it doesn't have that. It's just irreverent in a kind
casual.
Of a teenager.
Yeah. It's like
way
more casual.
Of just laughing at everything and then just playing really loud rock and roll, along with it, which is it's great. Yeah, Weekend's another one that does have like a Kinks-ish sound to me, of course. And I mean, there's some great lines in this song. I mean, about like, eating things off the floor and, all that kind of stuff.
Gross.
It's just really funny. It's a great song. And then you have the other thing that sort of that links them with the Ramones, but also the fact that a lot of New York bands have this Beach Boys thing. It's it's always kind of funny to hear that, and I mean, it's like in rock and roll high school, cruising around in my GTO, and it's like you couldn't drive.
Yeah, no, you don't even have a license.
I mean, they ever surf at Jones Beach or Horseshit Beach for the Dictators? Mm-hmm. I don't think so.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think that happened.
Yeah. But it's, there's some kind of connection. There's a longing and a real, like...
Yeah, and so it
something
comes out.
Resonates with all that,
really
beachy stuff.
There's some great moments. I love it when it kind of goes acoustic.
Oh, yeah.
Like, sort of, it has, like, everything, it kind of drops away and he's just singing. I don't know why that it just strikes me funny, even though it works perfectly in the
interesting,
song.
like, throughout the album, there's some really interesting moments where it's just, like, unexpected little touches.
Yeah.
Like the piano comes in out of nowhere. All of a sudden there's piano and then it goes away. And it's like, if you notice it, you're like, haha, that's funny. That's
it's
clever.
Not, and
but
it's not overdone.
No.
Or ham-handed.
You might not notice it because it's just like kind of like perfect in the song.
Yeah.
Side note, Manitoba's is closed.
Yeah, closed.
Which was a really cool divey bar in the East Village that Handsome Dick owned, and I was there, and it was like a really, really cool bar.
Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah. Well, I want to. After listening to this and talking about this, I'm definitely we're gonna talk about Manifest Destiny, I think, pretty quickly. So, yeah, get ready for that. Can't snap your fingers.
I can't even snap today.
All right.
Thank you for watching our brief discussion of The Dictators. Let us know what you think of this album in the comments, and please make sure to like and subscribe. Also, stay tuned here at States and Kingdoms for more videos Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and we'll see you next time.